Welcome everyone. In this video I will review some of the content from our session today, as well as cover a few things that I may not have had time to cover. So to begin, when you first log in, you'll see this menu, and you have a few options on your right as well as some announcements on your left. And this particular announcement is a new tool or a new feature added to Nearpod that allows students to edit and resubmit answers when you do a live lesson. And we'll take a look at that when we get to the part where we actually create a lesson. And over to your right, where you see these different options, if you want to see what they are, you can choose Help Me Decide. And this one tells you about accessing reports, where to go to create a new lesson, how to join a lesson if you wanted to be a part of one because you have a code to it, going to the store to find content as the Explorer, and then accessing your library is where you will teach, share, edit, and edit your lesson. So let's start out with my library. And you'll notice that all the content that you either create or download will be here. And you can find content by going, now I'll go to Explore from here, although you can also do it from here. It'll be the same thing. But since I'm in my library, I'll start here. I'll also create my lesson here as well, because these two take you to the same place. But to explore, we'll click on Nearpod Store. You'll be able to browse through lessons that have been created by possibly other teachers or content experts, but Nearpod does a good job of vetting these tools, these lessons. So, but you may still want to look at them to make sure that they're covering the content you want. So if you're teaching math, you should be able to tell whether or not the math is legitimate and things like that. So just make sure you go through it and vet it yourself as well. But you can find free content. So here where it says top free content, you just click on these items, and these are free to use. So you can just download them and use them however you want in your class. And you can just go through this as a preview to see how it's made. And this might be a good idea just to get an idea of what lessons look like. So you can be creative with this, and once you learn how to create them, they don't have to look exactly like what you see. And then when you want to add it to your library, if you wanted it, you could click on Add to My Library. So we go back to the store. Again, if you wanted to find content that's not free, so paid content is here as well. Let's say we click on this. Now this one uses the Nearpod VR, and that's the virtual reality. If you've never used that before, it can be amazing for students. The only problem, it can be a little pricey, or it may be hard to get good content. So they create their own content, and you can get this free with a certain account. And that account is a district level account, and I'll show you the different accounts momentarily. So the VR stuff is nice because the kids will have to put on the VR headset, and then they'll go through this learning adventure, or you'll lead them through this learning adventure, and it's 3D and it's all contained, so they're almost close to being there. So it could be interesting to do, but again, that's a little more pricey than the other stuff that you have available to you. And again, you would click on to show it or to add it to your library. I have it in my library, so it says show in my library, but that one would cost you some money. So that's what you do to explore to find content. You just go to either the Nearpod store or the school library, and you can search here, you can filter, and this could be set up in your district too. If you had a district level account, teachers could add lessons to it as well from other parts of the county. All right, so let's go back to our menu over here, and I won't spend too much time on the reports and join part, because join just means that you would join a lesson that's already created. You just type in a code. For the reports, you can get reports on your lesson. Now, I didn't really do any questions or anything in this particular lesson, so there's nothing really to look at other than the number of students. So there's not much here that you'll see. But if you did activities and had questions and students answered them, you'd be able to see reports here. So let's go back to my library, and now we'll learn how to create our lessons. And before you create your lesson, you probably want to look at you want to get some ideas about what you can do, and then gather all the resources that you want for your lesson so that you can add it as you go. So to start your lesson, of course, you'd either click on Create if you're in your library, or you could click on New. And when you click on New from within your library, the only thing different is this option to create folders so that you can organize your content within those folders. Otherwise, you just click on Lesson. And now you're ready to start creating. And you notice here it says Add Slide. So you see how that changes when I hover over it. So, and before you start, if you had content that you knew you wanted to use within your lesson, you could upload it here by clicking upload, or you could actually drag it there. And it only accepts certain file types. So if I try to drag something that didn't fit or didn't work, then it would tell you that it doesn't support that file type. Now that's a Word document, so I could just go into Word and save that as a PDF if I needed to, so that I could use it here. But otherwise, it should be PDF, PowerPoint, or images, PNG files. All right, so now we're ready to click on Add Slide. And first I'll start with Add Content, then we'll go to Add Web Content, and then finally we'll do Add Activity. And remember that Nearpod is both an interactive lesson building tool as well as an assessment tool. So these first two tabs will allow us to build our lessons with interactive content. And this third tab will let us create the assessment that goes with it. Now, you could only do an assessment if you wanted, so you wouldn't have to do these things. You can create your assessment separately for something. Let's say you taught a lesson in a more traditional way without Nearpod, and then you wanted to do some sort of whole class activity where you polled students or something like that. You'd be able to use this option, and we'll get there momentarily. But for now, we'll learn how to build our lesson. So we'll click on Add Content, and notice that we have the slide, the Nearpod 3D, and then if I click this arrow, it'll take me to all my other options. And to use these options, all you would have to do is click on it. For example, if I want to do this one, it takes me here. And if I didn't like this layout at the bottom, I could click on Layout, and then it'll let me change the layout if I wanted to. So I could have, so maybe I want to have two images here. Maybe I'm doing some sort of discussion, and I wanted to look at how a city looked at a certain period in time and now how it looks now, so students can make some sort of comparison. And again, to get files here, you would either upload or you would drag them. And then if you click this, you could also add text. And then it'll let me type. And you notice how the size of it changes as you go. And if you didn't like it, you just click delete. Same thing on this side. And if you needed to add an image, you would just click on the image and then either locate the image here, upload the image, or find it wherever you have it saved. So this is from your computer. This is from your drive, your Google Drive. This is from Dropbox. This is from a service just called Box. And this is from OneDrive. And that's how you add content. So I'll go ahead and I'll click something here. And then let's upload a file. Let's see what we can upload. So this is an image that I got from the Library of Congress, which is a nice free tool that has lots of historical documents, images, maps, audio recordings, different types of content and information. And again, that's the Library of Congress, and it's designed to be free for teachers. So here I can make it a little bit bigger. This image came from the bombings that happened at the 16th Street Baptist Church, where the four young ladies were on their way to church, and someone had put a bomb under the step, and of course those young ladies died. And so if you were talking about the civil rights movement, you would have this image here, and you could add other images over here. And once you've done what you needed to do, or you're satisfied with what you have, you can preview it. You can also add audio. Again, if you have an audio file that you want to add, like some music, or you could add something that you created. For example, if you use Audacity, that would allow you to record your voice, and you could actually add your own voice to your presentation as well if you wanted. And of course, you can do the background image if you wanted to do something like that. Then you just click Save, and now you have your first slide done. And you keep doing that through each one of these, so you add more content. And so let's say this time you wanted some 3D content. And let's say that you were talking about cells, so you wanted to add a cell. You could add that cell, and then now we got our next one. And then you go back to Add Slide, Add Content, and let's say we want to add a simulation. And if you never use the PhET simulations, these can be cool to do. So you can pick here if you wanted to, and there's another way to add that content, and I'll show you that as well. Let's choose on this balance. You have different options over here for the different levels for math and science, so you may find these very useful. Now that's been added. I'll go back, add content, and then there's field trips, and these are created by Nearpod, virtual field trips. So this is a good way to take students on trips that wouldn't normally get to leave and see other parts of the world. Then there's Sway. And if you've never used Sway, this is a Microsoft product. It's accessible to you. So you can feel free to create your own Sway if you wanted, or you could click on one of these to add your Sway. You notice now I'm just on a roll. I'm just adding content. So I did those. And then I won't click on all of these, but you can do slideshows. You can add videos, of course, audio. You can add PDFs. And here is a live Twitter stream. So if you had your own Twitter that you're using as an educational tool, you'd be able to click on this and just add whatever it is you needed to add to get to that particular stream. And then you could use that within your class. So it's very easy to add that content. And if we want to do web content, so we added a PhET simulation directly from the website because it's built in. But let's say that that wasn't built in. If I click on this, it's asking me for a URL. So I could add a URL to from anywhere. And then it does give you this little note though that Flash websites will not work on your iOS device. So be careful about that, because if you use Flash, then of course it won't work. However, when you're in PhET simulations though, if you look for this symbol, this number 5 on the orange shield, that stands for HTML5, and that does work on devices like iPads, Android devices and stuff like that. So you can use these, and all I have to do now is grab this link in the address bar, go back over here, paste that URL, and then I could test it if I wanted to, but I know it works, so I'll just go ahead and save. And now that's been added. So now I'll go back to add slide. So these two, remember these two are where you add your content. So we just saw how to add our content. The next thing we'll do is to add some assessment now. So I'll click here, and I can do an open-ended question, I can do a poll, I can do a quiz. This option allows students to draw their answers. This one allows you to collaborate. So let's say my topic were social justice and so if you wanted to teach students about some social issues and you wanted to have a conversation around it, you could add this board. Now what'll happen is these items come from the students, and so when you get to this part in your lesson, students could actually type a message and it would show up on the board. So it's almost like they would come up to the chalkboard and write it, except it's a little faster, and you get to keep and display all of them. And you just click save here. And now that it's saved, you are ready to preview your lesson if you want, or you can save and exit it. But let's preview real quick. And in the preview mode, I can go through my lesson now. And you notice how the 3D content works. I'm doing this directly in my lesson. This would be good to do on an interactive board like a Smart or Promethean board. The PhET simulation that was built in is already there, but I also, and this is the virtual field trip thing, you notice, or this is the 3D content. You notice how that's nice to be able to see those different angles, and it adds a little different effect than the 2D images we see in books. Then here's the sway, and you'd be able to go through the sway while it's on the screen. There's a little icon down here that you could click on, and you could get to the different parts of the sway, and then you keep going through. So this is where I pushed that link, and this is how I added the link. So I did PhET twice. PhET is built into Nearpod, so I picked one that was built in, and then I was just showing you that you could also add a website. So now it takes me to the actual website instead of just one of the modules. And then here's the board. The students would type something, and they would post it. And at this point, when this first starts, you'll have an option to either allow it to go straight up, or you can moderate the comment to avoid students from doing anything that you wouldn't want them to do. And then that's so that's the end of the lesson that we created. Now the only other thing I need to do is just title, and then choose to save and exit. Here I have grade level, so I'll choose PD, and in subject I'll choose other, but of course you could do whatever your grade is. And now it's saved and it's accessible over here. And because I have the platinum, I can do student pace, and remember that allows the students to do it on their own. But if you click on live lesson, this is what runs in your class. You would send your class to nearpod.com. they would type in this, and then you could run the lesson on those devices.